Hi, welcome back to You Got This at Girl Fix It. And today I'm going to redo this room. It actually looks pretty good on the surface, but what you can't see is that it smells. There's pet urine on it, which I could see with that black light, and I need to get down under the surface to remove what they should have done before they refinished this floor. And there's also a section up above where they had finished it without put in potentially new wood and didn't sand the rest to match. So I'm hoping it can be a little bit smoother in the end. So stay tuned till the end. Oh, and there's going to be lots of tips and tricks at the end, but I won't be showing you exactly how to use a sander because you might have a very different one for your rental. Stay tuned. Okay, these are the tools that I expect to use today. Most important is the sander. So this is an orbital sander, which is very helpful. I've only used a drum sander before, and the drum sander means it turns around and it's a little bit easier to cause gouges into your floor, but this one uses actual pads, so it shakes around just like a hand sander would, and the drum sander does kind of like a belt sander would. So I've got some different grits sandpaper here. I'm going to start with 80 and then go to 120 and then 160 or 180. I also have a hand sander just in case I need to get closer to edges. If you're using the drum sander, you can rent the edger as well to get a little bit closer, but this one hopefully gets really close to the edges and I won't need it. I also have a mouse sander. We'll check in at the end and see if I needed that. And then I've got safety gear. So I've got my glasses, my hearing protection, and some gloves, and then I'm going to finish with this Bana. It is water-based sealer. I haven't tried it before. I've usually only used polyurethane, and then I don't like rolling on sealer. I often get bubbles, so I'm going to quickly paint it on instead, and I've had really good luck with that. Now I need to prep my area, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Okay, I got my room prepped and I'm going to show you around. It probably only took me about 15 minutes. I've got a doorway that doesn't have a door sealed off, and around light switches and electrical covers I taped where I thought some sawdust might get in. Around the floor registers. I don't have many materials with me today. It's not my house, so just found some trash bags and taped those in there so that the sawdust can accumulate in there. I had hoped to open the windows. It's actually pulling all of the air out, but it's pulling off the plastic. So my windows are gonna have to stay open today. And then the air intake vent is also covered as well. Make sure your furnace or AC is turned off for today. And back in a moment with the machine. Okay, so this type of machine, you've got to use the pad and attach to it, which will then hold your sandpaper on it. The drum sanders have a circular sandpaper on it, so those go on differently. And this has a sticky backing, which is going to attach here. I'm starting with an 80 grit. An 80 or 60 will take off the first layers of stuff, and that's what you want to start with. The lower the number, the rougher it is on the outside. If your floor has a lot of gunk on it, whether it's glue or pet accidents or anything on it, you might go through a lot of the initial ones, and that's okay. You'll use a lot less sandpaper once the first material is off of there. I'm going to get on my protective materials and just let the video run so you can see how well it works. And so I'm going to switch back to another, or not switch, I'm going to just put a new 80 on here. Hey ladies, I'm done with removing the first coat with the 80 grit. And as you can see, the finish is all removed. And some of the imperfections taken out. I did have to use the mouse sander for along the edges and closer to the vents here. And next I'm switching, and this will go much faster, to a 120 than a 180. And I'll check back in when it's cleaned up. Okay, I got the room completely cleaned up, including vacuumed and tack cloth, and now I'm going to use my sealer. I already shook it, and I poured it in the bucket. Keep in mind that this first coat should be thin, and it might look very splotchy. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you've done anything wrong. The next couple of coats will really even things out. Okay, you can see how quick this is. A lot of sealers say to roll them on, but I've had nothing but problems when I roll it on. It produces bubbles, and really it's just not worth it to me when I know I can paint it on with a synthetic brush without bubbles, and it goes so quickly that there's no reason not to. You're gonna have to paint in the corners anyway. Okay, I've got the first coat down, and I want you to notice something. I'm at a slightly different angle than I was applying it, but do you see how the floor looks splotchy? You don't want to touch that right now. Think of it as your kitchen floor drying. It just dries a little bit unevenly, but if you try to go back and fix what's partially dry, you're only going to make it worse, and you're going to have to re-sand the thing. If it really does dry splotchy and you do need to fix it, it's not that big of a deal to hit it with like a 220 grit once you're done to knock down those high spots. But if you try to fix it now, you're going to have much bigger problems and potentially have to sand all the way back down to the wood, and we don't want that. So splotchy, okay, ignore it, and check your container. I need to let mine dry for at least 2 hours. Hey ladies, so it's been drying now for 2 days. I ended up doing 2 coats of the Vana, and I really like how it turned out. It's definitely already adhered. The bottle does say to wait for 7 days before putting down rugs and those kinds of things, but I can definitely easily walk on it and it's not getting scratched. This is my first time using something other than polyurethane on the floors, and I really like it. You can see how smooth it turned out, and it definitely doesn't bubble as easy as polyurethane does, so I could have pushed it across the floor as the bottle had suggested. I definitely couldn't do that with polyurethane. It created a lot of bubbles that way. If you're unsure if you can handle doing the floor by yourself or with a little bit of help or not, a good way to maybe try it out is to buy a solid wood piece of furniture, something really cheap off Marketplace or free, and go ahead and sand it down and do 2 coats of the finish that you're going to use on it, and just see how that turns out. Mostly the orbital sander that you would be using on the furniture would be a good indication of how much time and effort that takes. Definitely furniture has a lot more details, and so it does take a lot longer. This all took me one very, very long day to rent the machine, to do all of the sanding, the 3 different grits of paper, and then the 2 coats, and giving dry time in between, and then returning the sander. But it was doable. I'd really recommend over 2 days. Also, I could not lift the machine back into my vehicle on my own, so it's something to keep in mind that you might need a trailer to ramp it up, or maybe you're just stronger than I am. I think it weighed about 75 pounds, but it's also very awkward. And just keep in mind the difference between the orbital sander and the drum sander. If you're using the heavy duty equipment to do it, those give very different results. The orbital was much easier to use, didn't leave gouges in the floor, but I also thought the drum sander worked really well for floors that have a lot of defects in them, or you really had to take up a lot of gunk off of the floor. But if yours is pretty okay, then maybe the orbital is a good choice. And I think I mentioned earlier, but I'm going to throw this out there again. When you rent the machine, you can always start with a higher grit sandpaper, so that means it's smoother, to just make sure that you have control of the machine, and it won't take off as much of the floor, especially if you're using the drum sander, because it really just can cut through it really quickly. If you're using a 60 or 80 grit, that's the roughest sandpaper. And then make sure you watch the videos on the sander that you're going to use from the rental store. In all, this project cost me about $320 between the renting of it and the sealer that I put over top and the sandpaper. And this is not a promotional video. I paid for all of my supplies on my own, just trying to help you ladies out to figure out if this is a project that you want to give a shot. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll try to respond to as many of those as I can. And thanks for liking and subscribing.